thanks for everybody that's been watching and liking my video about the percentages. Access has unique name. That has really made my day. You notice the amount of percentages I have here? Every single damn thing is percentage. And this is what I've been working on. Originally, I did find out I was going to abandon Godot. I was having an issue. And that's that I could not get a scrollable list box to work. It just didn't make any sense. Well, I could get the buttons. I would assign a button in code to the list box. They would move in the UI with the list box form, but they wouldn't scroll or anything. Plus, I wasn't even sure how I was going to access those buttons. And I was getting very frustrated because, like I said, Godot documentation sucks. Absolutely 100% is awful. And I found out there is a Object Pascal based game engine called Castle Game Engine. And this is their documentation. All of this stuff on the left-hand side, there's no search feature, which kind of sucks. And their API view kind of makes you have to understand, what the methods and stuff mean. But writing code to modify scenes and transformations. This is under viewport with scenes, camera, and navigation. The freaking game is awesome. Or the game engine is awesome. However, I decided not to transfer the entire project over yet. Because the main issue, first, the Castle Game Engine is tightly integrated with your IDE, which in my case I would be using Lazarus, but it also supports visual code. The main problem is, like in Godot, it has a building area just like this. Like that's a button. So in the Castle engine, when you place a button, then you bring up the IDE, which stays up to date with your code inside the Castle game program. The buttons are not declared in the Pascal code at this time. So once you place your buttons, you have to bring up the code and then implement your buttons. And it's a little bit too much work for me right now. On Sunday, I spent about 4 hours. I got all of this done in that engine and with no problem. I even got sound when you're clicking buttons. Very easy to implement. But I ended up going back to Godot because of that simple feature that if only it would implement my buttons and declare the buttons, and then I could take care of the procedures, but it wouldn't even declare the buttons. That is on the back burner. That is on the burner for Castle Engine, though. And so I fought with Godot, trying to get a list box here, which add child node. I don't even remember. Scroll container with a scroll container here and a vertical split container. Couldn't get it to work. But I was up until 1:30 a.m. last night. What I decided is I'm going to just fuck Godot. I'm used to procedurally programming myself in non-objects. I'm going to make the interface myself. And I got the baseline of it yesterday, up until 1 a.m. I got one button, and I figured out how to access it in code. And I'm kind of understanding now, first, how to make this button into an object. And then from that, I'm going to have to figure out how an inheritance works. Because all of these buttons were manually created, and I made a mistake because I created one button, And then I duplicated that button and made 20 more. All this is 20 buttons. And I'd change the code in one button. It would change the code in all the other buttons. So that was a waste of an hour or two. And I had to delete all that and make individual buttons. And I'm pretty sure I was doing it all wrong. But, it all, for the most part, the code I started on works. So what I managed to do, no clicky sounds yet. I've managed to figure out how signals work. Because when I was testing this, you would click a button, and then down here, I had debug. So, button clicked, but it would click 10 times when I would click the button. And I'm like, this doesn't work because I'm doing it directly out of the docs. Where's button? Here, button, right here. Function ready, variable button. I copied this code. Function pressed, hello world. Well, if you use this code, it prints hello world 10 or 12 times with a single press of the button. And I'm like, well, fuck, this is absolutely useless. I watched a video on buttons after about 30 minutes of searching why this happens. Of course, nobody else has the time, had the problem. And those that did have the problem, the answers made no sense. They were incredibly complicated. The key was signals. And I was like, okay, well, I tested it. I understand signals now. Not here. All of these have signals for when they're pressed. So on press, I have it connected to itself. And that created the code right here, function on pressed void. And then I just filled in what I needed there to happen when it presses on a press. And I was able from that to build up this whole UI, which does all of this. These are the people's stats. And I had a minute once I got all this working to kind of think about this. You notice here, I'm hovering over a label that is because this is a static label listing all of this. Each of these is individual labels. And I'm like, wait a minute, if I can make a text that does this hint text, can I modify that in code? For example, I'm over a name now. It's the person's name. It's the only one that I've actually put text on. Can I actually put the biography of this person in the text, in the hover over text, I'm running out of space. And I figured out for the biography, I'll grab, okay, like this guy is really good at small arms because my stats go from 0 to 10. Below average eyesight, but not bad. Survival is garbage. Can't read anything more than simple one-syllable words. Really good, actually, at all weapons. What about, let's get somebody, eyesight 4, hearing 5. No, not impressive. Like, okay, eyesight 0. That means they're going to be legally blind. And in this case, they have great hearing. Their charisma, allure is outstanding. I want to, for this text, I want to grab how the hell can they be great at medical when they're legally blind and scavenging? Obviously, I got to fix all that. Do some checks and balances. But I want this text to be based on the history of these. Like, why are they legally blind? when they have, okay, great hearing because they're legally blind, great charisma. What happened here? Medical is 10. Was it a medical disaster? So I have to basically make stories for each level on the extremes as to what could do a low stat when say this was 10, but they're legally blind. In the past, they would have been awesome at these large weapons, but they're legally blind now. Why? Instead of just saying, oh, you're blind, then reduce your weapon skill. No, there has to be a background. There has to be a history. And that's what I want to put here for their biography, all based off their stats. I have no freaking idea how that's going to work, or how to even do that, or if it's even possible to use this rollover for that purpose. But yeah, I'm working on that. Some code has to be, I think, yeah, see, I got 2 Catlins here, which means my fine dupe code, I got to go back and look at that because it's apparently not working, which is no real big surprise. There should not be duplicate names. The one thing I did do is I have currently, I went to a random name generator, generated 50 names, and then just split the last names off from the first names. And so I had 100 names. And I went through the entire list, and I'm like, well, this is how I'm going to name my characters. I had a little bit of an issue because once I started doing that, I was getting men named Florence, for example. And I was like, okay, well, that's not really gonna work. It's in global varies. Town stats, city names, people stats. For some reason, I can't collapse that. Yeah, here's all the names. And for some reason, I can't collapse that. So what I ended up doing is I looked into string functions of Godot. And for that, thank God their docs were adequate enough. And I just went through the entire list and I said, if it's definitely a female name, put a small f in front of it. If it's questionable, whether it can be a male or female, a question mark. And if it's 100% a male name, put an M in front of it. And then as I generate the names, I'm reading that first character, and then I'm basing the sex based on that first character, and any question mark gets a random variable, like right here, match temp 2. So I grab temp 2 from a substring 0 of 1, so read the first letter from name, print it for my debugging, match temp 2. M is a male. Starting members 2 is having to use arrays because I can't figure out how to do an array of dictionaries, so I'm just using straight arrays. M is male, F is female, question mark, temp Randy range. Where's my randomize? Up here. I might want to put a randomize in front of this. So what it will do is it will just, any question mark could be 50-50 male or female, period. And this is where they're getting them from. Hey, so I got a lot. I gotta have more of this beer. I got a lot of this stuff to do still, but I'm making headway, and a lot of it is background. And just in the original World War 2000, your people were expendable. In this game, even though you can have up to 100 people in this gang, I want everyone to have a place, to have a background, to actually be a person. So if you lose them, it could actually really matter. as for the actual game, I haven't even developed any kind of combat screens. I haven't developed the living towns that I have in mind for it. This game's huge, and I'm starting to understand how quick fixes and patches come out for big games. Because I'm pretty sure they have to build their own shit too. So yeah, none of these other buttons are even thought about. I got a bug currently I have to work through where I can only list 20 at a time. If I go to area 2D here and generate, like we'll do, I don't know, 80 people, and this is going to be gang members. Nothing lists, but there's 4 pages available, so I don't have obviously the pages done yet. And yeah, but there's some names. I just don't know, what page they are, and that, that's something to do. I got the first page done, which means I can proceed to get the rest of the code in for all of this. All right, just an update. Everybody have a great day.